Because Gordon was an otherwise healthy guy, there was no medicine that was going to help us. Because he was relatively young when the stroke happened, there weren't any other people we could find that we could consult with or talk to or lean on. Because his stroke was so severe, we were told nothing would come back on its own. Any recovery was going to have to be earned. What would our recovery path look like? Every stroke is different, is about all any medical professional would say. What were they trying to tell us? Or worse, what were they trying not to tell us? It was a terrifying place. It was unknown darkness of a massive brain injury, and there was no light to give us our bearings. With Gordon in such bad shape, the realization of my new life struck me like a knife through the heart. Gordon's life was now my life. He was helpless without me. In pre-stroke life, I went to the gym on Mondays and Thursdays. I went on walks with my friends. I volunteered at the kids' school. I was on the board of our National Charity League chapter, which I helped start. I answered the phones at our church a few mornings every month. I cleaned, washed, folded, ironed, cooked, baked, mowed, weeded, edged, pruned, taxied, and helped with homework at home. Gordon and I had a clear division of labor. He made money, I did everything else. It worked for us. We both liked working hard, and we both felt fulfilled. But now, that life was over. I couldn't leave Gordon alone, so my interaction with the outside world was limited mostly to the nice people at the grocery store and the therapists that we saw on a regular basis. I had been active and involved in my community. That was over. I tried to sneak in moments of normalcy, but there was no getting around the fact that nothing was the same, and there was no going back. I confess I had one diabolical scheme at this time, one plan to use his brain injury to my advantage. Gordon has always been a carnivore with a capital C. I have always been a vegetarian. This man will eat anything except tofu and cooked fruit. Two things I love. Perhaps there could be some adjustments at this vulnerable time in his life. Put my plan into action at the rehab hospital. When the nurse brought Gordon's lunch, I told him immediately how delicious that apple crisp was. I told him how good it smelled and how he was really going to enjoy it. Well, I guess a person's food preferences are stored in a different part of the brain, because he didn't fall for it for a minute. Gordon may not have been able to tell me where he lived or what year it was or frankly who I was, but he took one look at that dessert and said, "No cooked fruit." Instead of moving towards my eating habits, Gordon went the other way and would be more than happy if I now let him eat only meat all the time. But now, he was completely changed. What was going to happen to us as a couple? As a caregiver, I was going to have to set the tone for our relationship going forward. If I wanted any chance of getting my husband back, I was going to have to live by our wedding vows. As we made our way down our stroke recovery path, I was going to remember who Gordon was before the stroke, try to understand who he was at that moment, and balance his needs, but still treat him as my husband and the father of our children. I was going to love Gordon no matter what he looked like or sounded like. He was still the man I married, and I was going to treat him that way, even though he was going through wild changes. If I treated him like a child, I would soon think of him as a child, and our relationship would never return. If I let frustration and disappointment enter into our relationship, our bond would be broken. I couldn't let that happen. I was going to be Gordon's wife, and I was going to love, honor, and respect him, just as I promised on our wedding day. Gordon's is a story of recovery. Mine is a story of surrender. It's a paradox. His recovery has required total commitment to making it happen, but surviving the ordeal has required total surrender of my will. It took a lot of sad days, but I finally got it through my head, surrendering my need for control, my illusion of control, and my vision of our future was my only option. I've always been a Christian. For all of us, God invites us to call on Him in times of trouble, lean on Him in our weakness, trust Him to carry us through the dark valleys. Well, that was me. troubled, weak, and in a very dark valley. There was no fooling myself into thinking that I had the power to change anything that had happened, or to make anything even go my way. It was time to embrace my powerlessness, put my faith into practice, and trust God's promises of love and mercy. And I'm okay with my weakness. I'm a better person for it. I'm wiser. I'm more compassionate. I try to live with gratitude and a cheerful heart. Reaching this place of peace in my life has been a painful blessing, but a blessing all the same.